Hey guys, it's Kevin, and this is going to be another classic movie review. Yes, I know, I've been very behind with classic movies. I've not done them all week long. I've been very focused on Sense8. I got way too into it. I didn't want to watch anything else, and yeah, so blame Netflix. Sorry guys, blame Netflix. But I want to get back into it because my goal is to reach at least 90 classic movies. Maybe 100 at this rate, probably not. Maybe like 95 possibly. So that's really my goal because I'm very close to that. I want to get to that by the end of the summer. So I got to keep up with these. And that is the movie I'm going to be reviewing. Um, I've wanted to review another David Lynch movie for a while now. I reviewed Eraserhead back in April, and I told myself I'm going to watch a lot of David Lynch movies, and I still want to fulfill that goal. I never actually got round to watching another one. I have two others to watch after this movie, but I figured I should watch this one because it's one that I've wanted to see for a very long time. It's a movie that I've heard countless acclaim about, and I figured, you know what, let's just watch it. And that is the 1980 biographical drama, The Elephant Man. Yes, I figured I should watch The Elephant Man for a number of reasons. The first time I heard about this movie was actually someone said it was their favorite David Lynch film. Many people say it's David Lynch's finest achievement, and yeah, so I checked out The Elephant Man, and I pretty much knew the plot and, like, what happened in it. And overall, what did I think of The Elephant Man? The Elephant Man is by far one of David Lynch's greatest achievements. It is an absolute masterpiece. It's a movie that I feel is very important for today, and a movie that is probably even more relevant today than it was in 1980. So let's get to the plot of The Elephant Man, which is pretty extraordinary, I have to say. I mean, really, it's an incredible story. We focus on this guy, John Merrick, who he was a real person. He had this horrible deformity that basically, I don't know what it was called. I'm looking up what the deformity is. Um, the deformity was called, it was exhibited as like a human curiosity. That's kind of what it's called. He's basically, he lives in this freak show. He has a horrible life. He lives in this freak show basically, and he's basically like property to everyone. He has a horribly deformed face who he doesn't really like to show it in public. He wears a bag over his face because he knows if he'll show it, he'll scare the shit out of everyone, and everyone really doesn't really respect him. He is abused a lot. He's called an animal. They don't really respect him. The only person that really respects him is this guy, Frederick Treves, who he is this doctor that basically has come to the freak show to see if he can do something about John's condition, to see if he can help him out. And eventually, Frederick ends up taking him away from the freak show so he can get him a better life. And John has realized that there are people there that can care about him. He really just wants to be treated like a human being. And it's basically the story of, can this man be treated like a decent human being? And are there people that actually do respect him? And that's basically a plot of The Elephant Man. I think it's an amazing story. And it's a very inspiring story. Really, it is. Now, let me just say right now, though, this movie is in no way uplifting. In no way. If you want to see an uplifting biographical drama, this is not the movie for you, okay? This movie is extremely depressing. It's very sad, and it's probably one of the most depressing movies you could watch. But it also is a great message that I really think is very important for today. Now, let's get to the acting in this movie. The acting is just absolutely fantastic. The acting in this movie, I think, is some of the best ever, honestly. I think the casting for this movie is, like, some of the best character, actor choices ever, and I think that's awesome. John Hurt as John Merrick. I really don't see anyone else that could have portrayed the role better than John Hurt did. I mean, you would think that John Hurt actually had this deformity. The way he plays John Merrick is just incredible. You see how hurt John Merrick is. You see he is scared of society. He's scared of people. Normally, he's used to going up to someone and just being terrified, them being terrified of him, not wanting to talk to him, and thinking he's some creature. And the way he portrays this role is just fantastic. You really see him as this human being that just wants to be treated like a decent human being. That really is all he wants throughout the entire movie. He just wants to be treated civilized, like a civilized human being, because that's what he is. And he's not a bad person. He's a friendly, kind-hearted guy who just really wants to be treated normally, and then he'll get some respect, and you really care about his character. I think John Hurt did an amazing job, and he was incredible in the movie. Anthony Hopkins as well did fantastic as Frederick Trees because his character is very important. He's really the only person that when he sees John, he's not terrified. In fact, you will see in the movie when he first sees him, he's not even scared. He's not even hesitant. He just wants to check him out and see what's going on. Most likely because he is a doctor who's dealt with things like this before, but he's not scared of him. He sees him as a normal human being. He sees him as an extraordinary human being, and the way he takes him in and they form this bond is just extraordinary. It's amazing. They have amazing chemistry in the movie, and I think they work fantastic together. Really, they were great. Anne Bancroft as Madge, I thought she was definitely very good in the movie. I definitely really liked her character. Definitely. Whoever played John's wife, Anne Trees, I really liked her as well because she's just as accepting of him. And then, of course, we have the villain in the movie, who is Freddie Jones as Mr. Bites the Ringmaster, who he was an incredibly menacing villain, and he did a fantastic job, I have to say. The thing I love about his character is just he's the complete opposite of Frederick. He doesn't treat John like a civilized human being at all. He treats him like an animal. He basically treats him like he's his property, and he owns him. He frequently abuses him a lot. I mean, it's really, really crazy stuff, guys, and he did a fantastic job in the movie. It's really, really disgusting, disgusting, vile stuff that he's doing to John, but he did an incredible role in the movie, and he was fantastic. So, all the acting overall is absolutely fantastic, and I think that's great. However, the best thing about this movie, in my opinion, has to be the directing by David Lynch, and the reason being, when you see a David Lynch film, you expect it to be weird and not really make sense, and this film is completely different than probably any David Lynch film you will ever watch. In fact, if I had to pick a movie for the casual moviegoer that David Lynch did, it would be The Elephant Man, because a casual moviegoer, and when I say casual moviegoer, I'm talking about someone that doesn't really analyze movies, someone that doesn't really think about movies, like, they don't go into movies just looking for deeper meaning, they just want to have a fun time. Well, this is not a movie to have a fun time with, but they just want to go into a movie and, like, see it, and that's really it. They don't really want to do anything else. This is a movie for a casual moviegoer because of the fact that it's not out there. It's not weird. The thing is, though, it's very much the same as his other movies. It's just it doesn't have the weird tone that the other ones have. However, I do think David Lynch was the perfect person to direct this movie because it's pretty incredible that this man actually existed, that there was a man named John Merrick who had this condition. Now, he's not the only person who had this condition. There was a movie made called Mask about this guy, Rocky, who also had a condition similar to his, but John Merrick is so much worse because this is 19th century England, and Rocky's was in the 1980s, so it wasn't nearly as bad as it was here, but I thought David Lynch's directing was fantastic. He did a great job, and something I love about David Lynch's directing, he always tries to put this deeper meaning and emotion into his films. I think it's just fantastic the way he does that. I mean, Eraserhead had a lot of emotion in it that I don't think a lot of people would notice that I really did. And this movie, too, it has so much emotion. You can tell the passion he had in this movie. He stayed so dedicated to it, and I really love that. He did a fantastic job directing, I have to say. Just his directing, top-notch directing, absolutely fantastic from David Lynch. I really do love his movies, I have to say. As I said, I think David Lynch is going to become one of my favorite directors, really. I could see that happening. He really did a fantastic job to this movie, I have to say. The screenplay is so real and raw and emotional. You can't help but get teary-eyed, and I got teary-eyed and cried numerous times throughout the movie. There were scenes where I didn't know why I was emotional. Maybe it's just the way the characters were delivering it, but you can't help but feel compelled by them. I mean, one of the things I love about this movie is it takes forever for us to actually see John take off the bag and show his face and then actually start talking. And when he starts talking, it feels like a real triumph, and I just love that. When he starts talking, he starts having normal conversation, you're like, okay, maybe he can be human in this human environment. This is an incredible scene. I love the way they did that. I absolutely love that. And of course, there's so many great, inspiring things about this movie. The movie has a lot to say about relating to us as the viewer, because I think what the movie's really trying to say is, if you were in Frederick's position and you were greeted by a man like John, how would you approach him? Would you approach him as being terrified and scared shitless out of your mind, or would you approach him like Frederick does and not really do any and just treat him like a normal human being? And I think what the movie's trying to say is that beauty is really only skin, beauty is only skin deep. There's a lot more to it than beauty. There's a lot more. I mean, really, the message I think of the movie is it really examines a lot with what is beauty, what is true human, what makes a true human. A human is someone that has emotions. A human is someone that cares about people, and someone that changes people's lives and things like that. This is a man that changed this man's life forever, and I think that's incredible the way they did it. I don't know if it was all accurate, but who the fuck cares? I mean, the way they did the screenplay was just fantastic. I loved it, and it's such a slow-paced movie, but I was into it the whole time. I was never bored, and I just thought it was so great. And of course, there's the classic line, "I am not an animal." There's that line. It's just as relevant today as it was in 1980, because that really is the turning point in the movie where he realizes that he is a human being, that's all he's wanted, and it's this incredible scene. And you just the way the movie gets in that scene, you don't see it coming. You really don't. I mean, it's after this incredible action scene where he's about to be captured again, and that's not really a spoiler because you knew he would be. That's the other thing about this movie. It's very realistically portrayed, and something I like is that once he gets away from the freak show, he's not away from the freak show. They're still after him throughout the whole movie. They're looking for him and things like that. The way they did that, I thought, was pretty fantastic as well. It really was very realistic in that sense. But you don't see it coming. When it happens in the movie, you don't expect him to say it, and it really takes you off guard, and it's such an amazing thing that they do, and I absolutely love that about the screenplay. It was absolutely fantastic, and it's just as good today as it was back then. The cinematography, I think, was great to this movie, because if you guys don't know, the movie was made in 1980, but it's in black and white, and I think it's really cool the way they did that, because David Lynch stated that he wanted this to look as much like a classic monster movie as possible. I believe it was something like that, and to me, at least, that's what I got out of it, and that's because people looked at him as a monster, and it kind of makes you remember the story of Frankenstein in a way, because Frankenstein, if you remember, he wasn't really a bad guy. Everyone just looked at him and was scared of his deformity, and he really didn't do anything wrong. Just like John did. Yeah, they're very different people, but it's kind of like a real-life Frankenstein. I love the way that David Lynch did that, and it made me draw comparisons toward those things, which I really loved. And the cinematography, it was gorgeous, it was great to look at, and it was amazing. The black and white, it literally looks like an old movie, and it's awesome the way he did that. It's a movie from the 1980s, but the way he, did the cinematography is just incredible, the way that was done. I absolutely love that. The score to this movie, it's not there a lot, but when it's there, it's very effective, it's very powerful, and I love the score of this movie. I have to say, it's fantastic. The editing was great. As I said, the movie really flew by for me. This movie got a shit ton of Oscars when it was nominated. It got a shit ton. I mean, it was nominated for 8 Academy Awards, and it tied with Raging Bull. There was a tie for Best Picture, which I thought was really interesting. It didn't win anything. It didn't win anything, which really sucks, but I mean, John Hurt should have won for Best Actor. I don't know why he didn't, but he should have. Definitely, but he didn't, unfortunately, and it really sucks. At least it was nominated for as much as it did, and I thought it won for a lot more, but it didn't, unfortunately, and I wish it did win more, because I feel like it's one of David Lynch's more underrated movies that a lot more people don't know about, because when people think of David Lynch, they think of Eraserhead, Mulholland Drive, and I'm sure those movies are great. Mulholland Drive I'm definitely going to check out. Blue Velvet I'm going to check out. Most people say Blue Velvet is his best, but I personally think this is because it was a movie where he had to really step out of his comfort zone and do a story that we're not exactly used to, and something that I thought was really cool to see his take on that. I definitely really like that. Also, the makeup design in this movie, the costumes are incredible. Again, you would really think John Hurt had this deformity because of how well they made the mask look on his face. I mean, it really is incredible. Look at pictures of John Merrick. It's pretty damn accurate. It really is. I mean, the way they did it, it's pretty accurate, honestly. It's not exactly the same. You can never really do that, but it's pretty accurate. And also, the ending to this movie, I can't help but cry. Like, you can't help it. There's not going to be a dry eye. Like, if you watch this movie in a theater, there's probably not going to be a dry eye anywhere. Like, if you watch this with anyone, there's not going to be a dry eye in the entire room. Everyone's going to start crying, because just the way the movie ended, I really want to get into that ending because it's one of the most beautiful endings, I think, ever. So of course we know at the end, John is rescued, luckily by Frederick. We realize though that he's dying from this disease basically, and they basically decided to take him to the theater, which I thought was really sweet that they did that. They take him to the theater basically, um, and they basically do it so he can see this. He can see a show one time just before he dies, and they know he's probably gonna die soon. And since he knows he's gonna die, he basically decides, you know what, I'm tired of. He always had to sleep upright. If you remember when he went to sleep, he had to sleep upright. Which basically, if I were to sleep upright, you'd have to basically like lay back, and your head would have to be like standing like this. It's vastly uncomfortable. It's as uncomfortable as you could think of. I mean, and his head was like that. So obviously, if he were to lie down like you and I would, it would like he'd break his neck basically. But of course, since he was so overcome with joy and things like that, he just decided for one night to try to sleep like a normal person, and he ended up uh, accidentally killing himself. It's a beautiful ending though, because finally he gets to be his own person. He gets to finally be he finally gets to do something like a normal human being. And even though he died getting to do what he wanted to do, and I thought that was fantastic. I love that, and the way they ended, I just thought was absolutely fantastic. And then when he saw the vision of his mother, I mean, I was crying. Honestly, I was crying. I can't help but admit that. I was crying definitely. That scene was an incredible scene. I absolutely loved that. I have to say, such an incredible movie. And basically, guys, this is my review, The Elephant Man. Let me know what you guys thought of this movie. If you've seen it, please, please see this movie. It was on Netflix. I don't know why the hell it left, but it was on Netflix, and it's not now, which really sucks. But there are two other David Lynch movies I'm going to watch. I'm sure you guys can figure out what they are. I mentioned both of them in this review, but I am going to watch those two. I definitely want to see more of them, but I really recommend you guys check out this one because it's very different than anything else you will see from him. It's not weird. Doesn't really have the weird-esque tone that David Lynch always does, but it definitely is a movie that makes you think a lot about life and how you view people and how they view themselves, and it really will change your perspective on things, which I think is definitely very interesting. I mean, it definitely changed my perspective on things. I mean, some people say the movie has to do with, like, racism and things like that. I don't think the movie applies with, like, blacks and Hispanics, things like that. I think it applies more to just people with diseases and deformities. They're just like you and I. Even though we might look at them in a strange way. It also really makes us question horror movies as well, because horror movies, like, they make you think that these things are scary, and then you look at this movie and it's like, he's just a normal man. I think it's really interesting the way the movie does that. And it shows that, no, there's nothing to be afraid of. They're just normal human beings who just want to be treated like human beings. I think it's amazing the way the movie did that. It's a message that I think is that will always be relevant. It's a movie that I think anyone can really relate to. Honestly, I think no matter who you are, you will somehow be able to relate to this movie, because everyone knows some sort of situation where they've come encounter with someone who is very vulnerable than them, is much less fortunate than them, or just not really very different than a typical human being. Everyone knows someone like that, and I think this really applies to anyone with some sort of disease, and I think it's a fantastic movie that does that. But that's it, my review, The Elephant Man. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Please check out this movie, as I said, and we'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Hannibal, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.